Hi, everyone. How is everyone today? This is Alicia with Eternal Paranormal, and I am doing my podcast. This is History of the Paranormal History, and I will be doing this once weekly. Today, I have a topic that we're going to go over, and that is the history of ghost stories. Before I start out, I do want to mention that, so I've been in the field for 3 years now. I want to kind of give you guys a backstory on me for those of you that don't know who I am. I started out a team, Residual Echoes Paranormal, about 3 years ago. It was very small, and I did that for a while. Hit up Edinburgh Manor was one of our first big locations there. And then I ended up collaborating with another team from the Peoria area called Host Ghost Paranormal. And I was with them for a while. And then we branched off, and I was on the Enlightened Souls Paranormal team. And just recently I have resigned for family reasons. And I decided that I wanted to do something on my own. And I have founded Eternal Paranormal now. So this is who I am. And I'm excited to start this new journey. I am starting from the ground up again. And I can't wait to see what the future holds. So I am going to continue to do podcasts. And then I'll be doing live investigations and all that good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So the topic is history of ghosts. I have found an article that I'm going to read over with you guys. Please comment, share, like. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. Let me pull that article up. Second, I'll zoom in for you guys. All right, I think that looks pretty good. That's your body, okay. So this article, I do not own any rights to or the music that's being played in the background right now. Since ancient times, ghost stories, tales of spirits who return from the dead to haunt the places they left behind, have figured prominently in the folklore of many cultures around the world. A rich subset of these tales involve historical figures ranging from queens and politicians to writers and gangsters, many of whom died early, violent or mysterious deaths. And I will also go back and forth between the comments and the article, and I do have a short clip too also. What is a ghost? So on Paranormal History, I want to start back from when it all began. Who saw their first ghost, and what did they talk about? How did people start thinking, oh, let's investigate this? What did they use? How did it all start? Really? And what is a ghost? What is that? What is this? What's that? So this is what this podcast will be all about. It'll be about everything, historical locations, historical dolls, really going down deep into the roots of the history. So, what is a ghost? The concept of a ghost, also known as a specter, is based on an ancient idea that a person's spirit exists separately from his or her body, and many continue to exist after that person dies. Because of this idea, many societies began to use funeral rituals as a way of ensuring that the dead person's spirit would not return to haunt the living. Did you know the most notorious mobster, Al Capone, has reportedly appeared to disrespectful visitors at his funeral plot in an Illinois cemetery, which I am from Illinois. Actually, the cemetery, so from where I'm at, it's about 3.5 hours from me. So that might be a location you might see on live, guys. Who knows? Spectral banjo music has supposedly been heard coming from inside Capone's old cell at Alcatraz, where he was one of the first inmates. I love Al Capone, guys. If I had a favorite gangster, it would definitely be Al Capone. Okay, places that are haunted are usually believed to be associated with some occurrence or emotion in the ghost past. They are often a former home or the place where he or she died. Aside from actual ghostly apparitions, traditional signs of haunting range from strange noises, lights, odors, or breezes to the displacement of objects, bells that ring spontaneously, or musical instruments that seem to play on their own. Uh-oh. Scroll back up. Okay. Early ghost sightings. In the 1st century AD, the great Roman author and statesman Pliny the Younger recorded one of the first notable ghost stories in his letters, which became famous for their vivid account of life during the heyday of the Roman Empire. Pliny reported that the specter of an old man with a long beard, rattling chains, was haunting his house in Athens. The Greek writer Lucian and Pliny's fellow Roman Plautus also wrote memorable ghost stories. So we're talking AD, guys, and they're already talking about this stuff. So there's always been that curiosity or some kind of paranormal activity. Centuries later, in 856 AD, the first poltergeist. Okay, guys, this is cool. The first poltergeist, a ghost that causes physical disturbances such as loud noises or objects falling or being thrown around, was reported at a farmhouse in Germany. There we go, guys. First poltergeist. It was in 856 AD in Germany. The poltergeist tormented the family living there by throwing stones and starting fires, among other things. Well, if it's starting fires, that's a pretty powerful spirit, just saying. And I wonder what they did about it, you know?
Just a few questions.
So, 3 famous historical ghosts. One of the most frequently reported ghost sightings in England dates back to the 16th century. One second, guys. Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry the Eighth. Okay, sorry, I had to count. And mother of Queen Elizabeth I, was executed at the Tower of London in May. Oh, and guess what month we're in? May. So in May 1536, after being accused of witchcraft, treason, incest, adultery, sightings of Boleyn's ghost have been reported at the tower as well as in various other locations, including her childhood home, Hever Castle in Kent. America's own rich tradition of historical ghosts begins with one of its most illustrious founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin. Beginning in the late 19th century, Franklin's ghost was seen near the library of the American Philosophical Society in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hey, Matt, if you're watching this, You might have Benjamin Franklin in your area. Some reports help that the statue of Franklin in front of the society comes to life and dances in the streets. Though many ghost sightings have been reported at the White House in Washington, D.C. over the years, perhaps no political figure has made so frequent an appearance in the afterlife was Abraham Lincoln, the nation's 16th president who was killed by an assassin's bullet in April 1865. Lincoln, formerly a lawyer and congressman from Illinois, is said to have been seen wandering near the old Springfield Capitol building, as well as his nearby law offices. At the White House, everyone from first ladies to queens to prime ministers have been reported seeing the ghost or feeling the presence of Honest Abe, particularly during the administration of Franklin D. Roosevelt, another president who has guided the country through a lifetime of great upheaval and war. So I think we're going to pause right here. And I'm going to go pop over to that video that I have for you guys. So let me share my screen. All right. And it is
When
loading.
you shop with your favorite retailers like Amazon,
Once again,
Walmart, and
I
Target,
do not own
right
any
before you
rights
check
to
out,
this
this
video.
One simple but brilliant trick to cool your home in 90 seconds.
And y'all know why.
Tired of hot and stuffy
I have to
rooms
say
during
that.
summer? This
You
genius
do
way to
Facebook
cool any
Live
room in 90 seconds for almost zero
podcasting or
cost is
whatnot.
taking over the market like crazy in the US. An
So I'm gonna go
ingenious
ahead and
college
mute
kid
my
from
mic.
Phoenix just destroyed the billion-dollar AC industry by building a device that...
These are true stories based on submissions from the BuzzFeed Unsolved Network audience. These are their encounters. One night when I was in 7th grade, I had two friends sleeping over, and we were in my basement. My brother, who was around 7 at the time, had bought himself a new Furby and got bored of it after a few weeks. Then it sat untouched in the basement closet. As you may know, Furbies sometimes begin to talk when they are moved, yet they only speak gibberish, not English. This night, it was around 4 a.m., and we had all the lights out, and it was silent. We were laying down to go to bed, and out of nowhere, we hear this Furby's voice say, "Come play with me," and then it laughed. At the time, I didn't know it didn't speak English, so we wrote it off and went to bed. To my horror, in the morning when I checked on it, not only does it not speak English, it also had no batteries. I was a freshman in college in the Philippines. It was late at night, and my friends and I were on our way home after watching a play at one of the campus theaters. As we were nearing the College of Education building, I looked up to the sky and saw a woman jump from the topmost floor. I told my friends, and we ran over to the front lawn of the building to help the woman. But when we got there, she was gone. The guard came rushing over to us because I was so loud about it. My friends didn't see her because I was the only one who felt the urge to look up. The guard helped calm me down from nearest area, then told me that I must have seen the ghost of a woman who had jumped to her death from that building years ago, because it was the anniversary of her death.
I was literally going to say that they probably saw someone who committed suicide, and it was the residual energy of them jumping to their death. But that's crazy. And then the guard stated that somebody did jump there from that building and committed suicide, and it was the anniversary of their death. That's pretty crazy stuff.
In 2015, I went on a trip to DC for the 4th of July with my family. This was our second trip to DC, so we decided to take the last day of our trip, the 4th of July, to go visit Mount Vernon, George Washington's estate in Virginia. It was the middle of the day, scorching hot, and there was absolutely no air conditioning in the house, aside from a few fans, placed sparingly. I'm a huge history buff, so I was very excited about touring the home and knew a lot about George Washington and his estate previously. So I knew that he passed away in his bedroom in 1799, but that's definitely not what I was thinking about when our tour guide led our group upstairs to see said bedroom. His bedroom had a lot of really delicate artifacts in it, so we weren't allowed to go inside, and there were little plastic barriers preventing us from doing so, but you could stick your head into the room and look around. For some reason, I was the only one in the group who decided to take a look. When I stuck my head into the room, I was immediately struck by how absolutely freezing cold it was in there, and I don't mean that there was a light breeze. It was as if I had stuck the upper half of my body into a walk-in freezer. I was confused by this because there didn't seem to be any air conditioning in the room, so I looked around to try to see if there was any fan or AC unit that I just wasn't noticing, but I didn't see one. I decided to take my head out of the room and ask our tour guide why it was so cold in there, but then I realized that I couldn't move. I was paralyzed from the waist up. Every part of my body that was in the room was completely stuck in place. I struggled to pull myself out, but couldn't. I started to panic and tried to open my mouth to call for help, but when I opened my mouth, no sound came out. All of a sudden, from the other side of the room, where there was a little piece of furniture, a mirror, and a water basin, probably where Washington washed his face and shaved in the morning, I felt what I can describe as nothing other than a pair of eyes staring at me, almost like the sensation of someone staring at you while you sleep. I didn't see a figure or anything, but I felt this huge and intimidating presence walk towards me and stare me down. It was horrifying, and I physically could not tell you how much time passed in that moment, because it really felt like it could have been an hour, but I guess it was only a few seconds. After a while, I finally broke free from my paralysis and almost fell backwards onto my butt. My mom asked me what was wrong, and I told her that I wanted to leave. She didn't believe me when I told her the story later, but it still scares me to this day. When I was around 8 or 9 years old, my mom told me to go to bed early on a summer night, so I threw a fit and began screaming at my mom, "I hate you!" My mom always told me never to go to bed angry, because the devil can possess you and steal you. After slamming my bedroom door shut, I turned off the lights and laid down. It was near midnight, and I was still angry. Suddenly, I heard tapping by my door. I had chills run up my arms. Then I heard a voice call to me. It sounded like my brother's voice, but he was calling me a nickname my mom used for me. I figured it was my brother, so I started yelling at him to go away. The voice taunted me with the nickname until my mom ran into the room and turned on the lights. "What are you yelling at?" I sat up and noticed she was the only person in my room. I told her my brother came in to
All right, so there, I feel like the mother was messing with him because of what he said. So I think that he's honestly believed that he had a spirit come to visit him, but it was really it was his mother, which I would I see where that's going. But let's go ahead and play the video again.
to my room and started calling my name. She looked pale. "Your brother is sound asleep in my room." It was exactly 12 a.m. on the clock when my mom walked into my room, and it was freezing even though my window was closed and the AC was turned off. There was something in my room that night, and to this day, nobody in my family understands what happened. All I know is that I'll never go to bed angry ever again. Last year, I went to the coast of Rhode Island for my cousin's wedding. We were just a few miles from the Lizzie Borden house. We get to the wedding venue, and it's this old, big, creepy-looking mansion. Immediately, my spooky senses were tingling. I made a few offhanded comments about how it seemed like this would be a place that was haunted, but within a few minutes, I was distracted by the festivities, and all thoughts of ghosts escaped my mind. The wedding was out behind the mansion, where we could see the water, so everyone had moved from inside to the back lawn. All afternoon, my cousin and my aunts had me grab things for them. Eventually, one of them asked me to get a hair clip she had left in the dressing room area. The dressing room area was in the upstairs part of the mansion. Only people in the wedding party were allowed access up there. As I ascended the red velvet spiral staircase, the spooky feeling started coming back to me. Suddenly, I felt like every portrait on the walls were watching my every move. As I went into the dressing room, I decided I would just grab the hair clip and run. I walked to the large table and found the clip. As I was getting ready to run out of the room, I saw my reflection in the mirror on the other side of the room. My hair had gotten all messed up from running around, so I stopped to fix it. As I was standing facing the mirror with my back to the open door of the room, I saw what looked like the form of a person standing in the door just over my shoulder. Frozen, I stared at the white figure of a person in the mirror for a few seconds. Quickly regaining my composure, I turned around and looked at the door. No one was there. I swear that I had just seen an old white gentleman. I couldn't make out the clothes he was wearing, but I definitely knew that no one in the wedding party looked like him. since we are an Asian family. So if it was a random guest, they wouldn't have been allowed to go upstairs where I was. While I was standing, looking around in confusion and mild fear, the door to the bathroom began shaking and banging, like someone was locked in there and they were trying to get out. Thinking it was just a bridesmaid that was stuck in the bathroom. Most doors were creaky and jammed frequently. I went and easily opened the door. No one was inside the small bathroom. Scared out of my wits, I made a run for it. In my fancy dress and 6-inch heels, I ran back down the red velvet spiral stairs and didn't look back until I was outside. Later that night, the bride's hairstylist told me he saw the same apparition of a man, just minutes before I did. Several years ago, I was deeply involved in amateur ghost hunting. A friend at the time told me her home was in fact haunted, and I jumped at the chance to tackle the challenge. We first conducted an EVP session in the master bedroom where my friend's grandparents died. After asking questions like, "Do you want us to leave?" and "What are you going to do if we don't leave?" Several people in the group immediately began complaining of headaches and stomach pain. I was met with responses like yes and harm. We began hearing noises from the kitchen where we moved to conduct another session, and the room became drastically hot for a January in New York City. And I raised my hands in prayer and began to close my eyes. As I prayed, a member of the group told me my hands were being pulled apart by nothing. As I opened my eyes, I became disoriented and my vision blurred, and I heard several people in the group saying something was coming up the stairs from the basement. I got up and noticed a horned shadow creeping up the steps. I yelled at it, "Do your worst, I'm not afraid." I woke up on the floor a full 5 minutes later. I managed to get out of the house, just to be told I smelled like ashes and fire. I got home to notice what appeared to be a handprint on my ankle, and it was hot to the touch and extremely painful. I had gone to church and explained what happened, and the priest offered to anoint the mark with holy water, and when it came into contact with my skin, it felt like I was being set on fire. For several weeks after, myself and one member of the group began to have dreams of being threatened and taunted by a man in a black suit. My grandfather built a house for him and his first wife. Sadly, she died falling down the basement stairs. Later, he met my grandmother and they had my mother. Years later, my grandfather passed away, leaving my grandmother alone in the house. A friend of hers had stopped by to see if she would sell the house. She gave them a tour, and afterwards, her friend handed her his card. The minute her hand touched the card, a loud crash came from upstairs. For reference, the upstairs is laid out like a square hallway that loops around a pillar, and on the back of that pillar is a bookcase. The shelves in that bookcase had collapsed inward, like someone had slammed down on them. Books were found in every room upstairs, behind beds, in closets, and even in rooms on the other side of the pillar. My grandma never really believed in ghosts, but this event freaked her out. So this has happened to me more than once in the house where my family used to live. From what I was told, there was a ghost in the house that resembled me, so much to the point where my own mother thought it was me. The first incident was back in 2011-2012. I was in my bedroom, and I heard my name being called, so when I responded from upstairs, I heard my mom say, "Never mind," very nervously. Naturally, I go down the stairs and I asked my mom why she was calling me. She then said, "I just saw you standing in the kitchen." I looked at her and said, "I've been upstairs the whole night." And she replied with, "I saw you go into the kitchen and open the cupboard." The next incident was with a family friend named Jamie. The layout of our house was kind of odd. There was a hallway that connected to the kitchen, but it had 2 openings, so it created this weird open wall situation. Anyway, there was a mirror hanging on the wall, and you could see the reflection of the TV in the mirror. So one day, I went to an amusement park, and Jamie looked at the mirror, then circled around the hallway situation, and asked the other person in the house if I was still there. When she replied, "No, she left," Jamie said she saw me sitting on the couch from the reflection of the TV. The TV was not on. The last incident was with my cousin. He had spent the night, and we both fell asleep on the couches downstairs in the living room. He had woken up and went upstairs to brush his teeth in the bathroom. It had one of those giant mirrors that covered the entire wall from the counter up. And with the bathroom door open, you could see into my room and my brother's room. He said he was brushing his teeth, and when he looked up at the mirror, he saw me standing from my bedroom watching him brush his teeth and said, "Oh, I didn't know you were awake, Cass." He didn't get a response. Once again, I was asleep downstairs in the living room. The next thing I knew, my cousin was shaking me, telling me to wake up and that he had just saw me standing in my bedroom. We lived there for about 9 years. My room was always the coldest room in the house, especially the closet in my room. It was freezing in there, and we were told it was a portal. I always heard hangers moving around, and I would feel someone or something sitting at the edge of my bed. In the basement, especially if you were alone, you could hear footsteps constantly. I never felt too scared or threatened, but the idea of a ghost looking at me creeped me out.
We help regular, everyday people, probably someone like yourself, make money with Audible. If that doesn't sound interesting in any way, shape,
I live in a house that was built in the early 1900s. When it was built, it was intended to be used by a doctor performing checkups and work in his own home. One room at the front of the house freaks out nearly every visitor who comes by, and my friends growing up always described a strange feeling when walking past the room. Some even run past to avoid it. The house consists of a long hallway where you have to walk past every room before reaching an open space, something that I've been told has been quite claustrophobic and has scared some of my friends who used to visit often. Back in 2015, my then girlfriend explained that she was seeing snakes in one corner of the room and a snarling dog in the other. This was all during the middle of the night. I had experienced what I thought were hallucinations of a lost child and a strange man that I assumed was one of my mother's friends. When I asked who it was, she said there had been no one matching the description who had entered the house. During the night, when leaving my room for a drink or to go to the toilet, I never felt alone. I felt like something was there, but not acting out. Now, as an adult, I walk into that front room and still feel cold and a sensation that I can only describe as emptiness. To this day, I wonder what kind of patients the original owner had, and if any of them died on the property. I was lying on my bed watching videos on the internet when I thought I heard a knock at my door. I took out my headphones and listened for another knock. I didn't hear anything, so I put my headphones back in and continued watching the video. Shortly after, my video started buffering at exactly 6 minutes and 66 seconds, and I felt someone tug at my foot, which was hanging off my bed. I quickly got up and looked under my bed and around my room to see if my sister was playing a trick on me. I was alone. I ran out of my room and saw a tall, dark figure standing at the end of the hallway. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them again, it was gone. When I was about 9 years old, I had a friend that introduced me to the urban legend of Bloody Mary. We used to play around and dare each other to summon her in the bathroom one at a time. One night, I was feeling daring, so I went into the bathroom and did it, except I ran out before I could see anything, and I went to sleep. I woke up around 4 a.m. and heard footsteps coming up the stairs. At first, I thought it was probably my parents, except I began realizing that the footsteps never seemed to make it to the top. Then I thought, oh, the tooth fairy. Remember, I was 9. I had lost my tooth that night, except I looked under my pillow, and it was gone. The steps started getting louder, faster, and closer, and sounded as if someone had already gotten to the top of the staircase. But I went to check. Nobody was there, and both my parents were asleep. I got so scared that I pulled the covers over my head, and the steps suddenly came to a halt. I slowly uncovered my face, let out a sigh of relief, and went to turn my body towards the wall, when I felt a hand crawl down my forearm and bang it against the wall with full force. I had zero control over my arm, which is what freaked me out. When I woke up, there was a dent in the wall. About 4 years ago, I was home alone with my newly 3-year-old daughter. My husband was working late, so I knew I was in charge of bedtime. I didn't like being alone at home because I always had this off feeling like someone was watching us, and my mom was always superstitious. My daughter and I went through our routine, and when it was time to put on her pajamas, she told me that she had a friend who would stay with her when we put her to bed. So I asked her who it was, and she looked at me and said, "Well, can't you see him, Mommy? He's standing right behind you in my closet. He's very big. How can you miss him?" We moved less than a year later. We had just moved to the suburbs from the south side of Chicago, so naturally my family and I were slightly uneasy in a totally new environment. My younger brother, however, was a nervous wreck. He refused to go into the basement or even the stairs leading down to them. No big deal, he was around 5 or 6 at the time, so we chalked it up to the typical kids scared of basement rhetoric. But things did get weird pretty quick. Apparently, I started sleepwalking, something I never did before we moved, and I would stand outside my parents' door in the middle of the night. I would do this a few times a week, even standing right next to my parents' bed, and just stare. My mom would always tell me to go back to bed, and according to her, I even tried to leave the house. I was around 10 or 11. One night, we were eating dinner, and my little brother just loses it, sobbing hysterically and pointing at the door that, you guessed it, opens up to the staircase that leads to the basement. My parents are super concerned, asking him what's wrong, but all he can manage to string together is, "It's staring at me. It's staring at me." A little time passes, and nothing really happens. Things seem to have really calmed down. It was the middle of winter, which is when my birthday is. I was hanging out in my room, and I heard someone singing happy birthday. Weird, because it wasn't my birthday just yet. So I went into the kitchen, expecting to see my parents with a cake. No one was there. I thought that maybe I was just hearing things. I went back into my room, and I heard it again. I started looking around, and I finally found the source of the noise. It was coming from the vents that all lead to the basement. The last straw for my parents was probably when we couldn't find my younger brother. We looked all over the house, no sign of him. We were all freaking out. Eventually, we would faintly hear someone crying through the vents. He was in the basement. My mom wouldn't let me go into the basement with her, so this is what she told me happened. She said that when she ran down there, she saw a dark shadow, and that it was shaped like a man. Now, my mom is your regular religious immigrant parent. She didn't allow us to bring anything regarding death or the supernatural into the house, because according to her, it would be inviting it into our home. So, of course, this freaked her out. She said that she repeatedly told whatever it was to get out and leave her family alone. Apparently, it disappeared after a few moments, and she found my brother. After that, she hung up a few crosses all over the house and a Virgin de Guadalupe statue. Nothing weird happened since, but we still ended up moving. Moral of the story: don't move to the suburbs.
When you carry out from Domino's, you can get more than just pizza for $5.99. You can get specialty chicken, savory pastas, oven-baked Parmesan bread.
All right, guys.
And yes, medium two-topping pizzas as well. We didn't stop at pizza.
We are going to pop back over to our article and finish reading that article. In 1 second. Hope y'all thought that was interesting. I did. Especially about the George Washington thing and all that. Hey, Matt, you missed it. I'm going over history, paranormal history, and I have I have an article on history of ghost stories. I actually want to go back over where it was talking about it in Pennsylvania. You probably know all about it already. All right, here it is. So it says America's own rich tradition of historical ghosts begins with one of its most illustrious founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin. Beginning in the late 19th century, Franklin's ghost was seen near the library of the American Philosophical Society in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia. Some reports held that the statue of Franklin in front of the society comes to life and dances in the streets. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and finish where we left off, though. Oh, here's some more. Hey, here's some more stuff, Matt, about Pennsylvania, actually, where the Perry Unity Day is going to be held in September. Haunted places. Some locations simply seem to lend themselves to hauntings, perhaps due to the dramatic or grisly events that occurred there in the past. Over the centuries, sightings of spectral armies have been reported on famous battlefields around the world, including important battle sites from the English Civil War. In the 17th century, the bloody Civil War battlefield of Gettysburg and the World War I sites of Gallipoli near Turkey and the Somme, northern France. Can't talk today. There has been lots of reports of activity at Independence Hall and Independence Village. Have you been there? How far is that from you, Matt? I've seen a few in Gettysburg myself and all throughout the town. There's even reports in the farmland surrounding the battlefields. I believe it, because they probably flock there for shelter. Actually, are you available right now? Let's pop on here. I'm gonna wrap it up after finish going over this article here. It's in Philadelphia, Independence Hall. And yes, I've been there, but not to investigate. Sadly, planning to though. Dude, you totally should. Getting Benjamin Franklin on like an EVP or something, dude. That would be historical. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to this article. Another particularly active center for paranormal activity is in the HMS Queen Mary. And this is all like about your type of stuff you've been doing lately, Matt. It's crazy. So it's not the ship that you guys were on, but now let's talk about another like cruise ship. A cruise ship built in 1936 for Cunard Light Star Line. After serving in the British Royal Navy in World War II, the 81,000-ton ship retired, and here we go, retired in Long Beach, California. There you go, Matt. In 1967. This is all your field, Matt. You have... Oh, I missed your last comment, too. Apparently, I was speaking with Thomas Jefferson while we were in Annapolis, Maryland. Damn. That is so cool. The plan was to turn it into a floating luxury hotel and resort. Since then, the Queen Mary has become notorious for its spectral presences, with more than 50 ghosts reported over the years. The ship's last chief engineer, John Smith, reported hearing unexplained sounds and voices from the area near the ship's bow. In almost the same location as a doomed British aircraft cruiser, the Caracoa had pierced a hole when it sank after an accidental wartime crash that killed more than 300 sailors aboard. Super cool, dude. Smith also claimed to have encountered the ghost of Winston Churchill, or at least his spectral cigar smoke, in the Prime Minister's old stateroom aboard the ship. Many visitors to the Queen Mary have reported seeing a phantom crew member in blue overalls while walking the decks. Around the ship's swimming pool, reports have been made of mysterious splashes and ghostly women in old-fashioned bathing suits or dresses, along with the trails of wet footsteps appearing long after the pool had been drained. So, Matt, if you're still here, you've been there. Has any of this stuff that they're talking about in this article happened to you while you were there? I'm going to go ahead and continue on with the article. Gotta wet my whistle. Among major cities, New York is especially rich with ghost stories. The spirit of Peter... Okay, I'm going to murder this name probably, the last name. Stuyvesant, the city's last Dutch colonial governor, has been seen stomping around the East Village on his wooden legs since shortly after his death in 1672. The author Mark Twain is believed to haunt the stairwell of his one-time village apartment building, while the ghost of poet Dylan Thomas is said to sometimes occupy his usual corner table at the West Village's White Horse Tavern where he drank a fatal 18 shots of scotch in 1953. Turned down for what? Perhaps. Oops, hold on. Sorry about that, guys. Where was I? Okay, perhaps the most famous New York ghost is that of Aaron Burr, who served as vice president under Thomas Jefferson, but his is best known for killing Alexander Hamilton in a duel in 1804. Burr's ghost is said to roam the streets of his old neighborhood, also the West Village. Burr's spectral activity is focused particularly on one restaurant, one if by land, two if by sea, which is located in a Barrow Street building that was once Burr's carriage house. So we got the comment from Matt about what happened to him on the Queen Mary. Cigar smoke, that is what they said. That's crazy. Cigar smoke smell. Yep, the footsteps, voices, doors creaking, and random EMF spikes. But the cigar smoke told us might be the original captain. Yeah, they were talking about that in the article. He loved cigars apparently, and I just assumed that because of the heavy smoking, the smell just caught in an environment and under the right conditions gets slowly released. Let me go back to that. Yeah, hopefully I can find my spot. Okay, so see, look. The ship's last chief engineer, John Smith, reported to hear unexplained sounds. Let's see here. Smith also claimed to have encountered the ghost of Winston Churchill, or at least the spectral. Yep, okay. So they're thinking that it's Winston Churchill, or at least his spectral cigar smoke in the Prime Minister's old stateroom. Well, then I don't know. It might not have been Winston Churchill. It might have been the former hold on. Yeah, the former captain. Yeah, they're talking about wet footsteps here. All right, scroll back down. That's very so that's just showing validity in the cigar smoke, smelling the cigar smoke, and what they're talking about in this article. So somebody have actually been there themselves to investigate, that being Matt Barron, paranormal consultant. So that's just validating that is really, the activity that has happened there and what you'll get when you're there. Oh, I guess we're done with that article, guys. So we found out where the first poltergeist was seen or talked about, and that was in 1856 AD in Germany. We talked about some of the very first. Hold on, let me get the screen off here. We talked about some of the earliest ghost sightings, like the most historical figures that have been seen. Right here was Benjamin Franklin, Abraham Lincoln. Talked about some famously haunted places in the history. Went over some ghost stories from people that have submitted. And so that was Paranormal History. And I do want to talk about something that I have in the works. Actually, I'm going to be heading to the Old Salem Hospital House in September and doing an overnight investigation there. I'm super excited, and I don't have much on it, but I'll pull this up real quick for you guys. You can actually, they turned it into an Airbnb, guys. So this is the place that I'm going to be heading to in September. This place is actually like 4 hours and some odd minutes from where I live. So this is the Old Salem Hospital House. And I won't be working alone, guys. I actually will be working alongside with you to the other side. Let's see if I can pull up some other pictures in here. Nope. So right here, it says a little bit. It says, currently we have verified it to be one Salem, Illinois' third hospital, and it could have been a nursing home as well, but that's not been verified. The house is an old colonial style house that was built in 1860 or earlier. We have yet to find an exact date. And right here it's showing you they're an Airbnb. And they do have some clips, some videos. They have cams set up throughout the house. So if you guys want to go check this page out, it's Old Salem Hospital House on Facebook. And you guys can even stay there if you want to, but I will be heading there in September. Meaning key to the other side, Lisa Marie. And I'm excited. I cannot wait. And I also am going to be heading to the old YMCA in Rock Island, Illinois. Let me see if I can find some history on that for you guys real quick, since we are doing paranormal history. One second. I didn't plan on talking about this, so I apologize if I'm not prepared. Poop. So how's everybody doing today? You know what? Let me go back to my messages. I have the information. No idea. I don't know. I can't find anything right now. I'm sorry, guys. Let's go to the comments. Hi, Liz. How are you? So Liz Milne is our friend from the UK and Scotland. She is a paranormal investigator, a part of the P3 program. I've done some investigating in Scotland, UK. I'm just starting. I've done it for a few months now, and I love to investigate. I stay in Scotland, UK. Thank you, Liz. Yeah, we're in America. I actually was mentioning earlier on my podcast when I started this for Paranormal History that I actually resigned from Enlightened Souls Paranormal. So now I am Eternal Paranormal. I decided to do my own thing because of family dynamics. I'm trying to spend more time in my kids' lives. But I still love the paranormal. I have a huge passion for it. So I'm going to continue to do the podcast like I did with Enlightened Souls Paranormal. I'll be doing Paranormal History. This will be a different podcast. Paranormal History strictly on weekdays and probably around this time. And I'll be doing live investigations still. I have a couple locations that are coming up. I'm going to be doing the old YMCA in Rock Island, Illinois, which is in my area, and hooking up with another investigator from my area, Mike Kratzberg. And we're going to be heading there at some point. And then also I'll be meeting up Key to the Other Side. Lisa Marie, we're going to be going to the old Salem Hospital House and staying overnight for an investigation in September. And I'll have more locations and other stuff that I'll be doing as well. Actually might do room readings here and there as well. And yeah, so I'm going to continue going. I'm going to spend more time with my family and have that balance. So this was Paranormal History. I am your host, Alicia, with Eternal Paranormal, and I am eternally grateful that y'all tuned in. Please like, share, comment, and no, I'm just kidding. Stay spooky. That'll be my catchphrase. So from Eternal Paranormal, I'm eternally grateful. I'm your host, Alicia, with Paranormal History. Stay spooky. Bye.